Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful Monday. We are back again with another Fanatics Weekly Review where I go through the top 100 soccer items auctioned over on their auction block. As always, if you enjoy these weekly episodes, do make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the channel, all that good stuff. But with that said, let's go ahead and swing on over. Starting off at 103 this week. This is quite the drop from weeks past. Obviously, less of an auction block. I don't really think it's a fault of people not paying high prices like they have been lately. I think prices are still there. It's more so the cards that were lackluster. Could be a variety of factors. You know, I lean towards holiday season, people just being preoccupied with Christmas, New Year's, all that fun stuff. And maybe people running out of Messi and Ronaldo to sell. I don't know. There's a lot of cards of those folks out there. But nonetheless, less of a week. So we'll probably rush through the first page, at least to some degree. I didn't look up a ton here. Because nothing really gets me going down here. So we start with the Lamine Yamal rookie. We have a Hidden Gems Zlatan as well, along with a Topps UCL Crystal Base Lionel Messi. Interesting to see what's in these rows at this point, because we haven't been down at this level for probably a year or two. So 2020, well, maybe that's too much. I don't know. Anyways, Black Label, BGS, the one thing BGS is good for at this point. The classic Black Label there on the tops now, going for 110. A couple other Messis in the row. 2005-2006 WCCF's a fun card. I mean, easily gettable, but not easy and higher grade. They're sort of like playing cards almost, where you put them in a machine. And so ultimately, a lot of those black borders are chipped. And so to get an 8 is, something. And at least I can understand why it's up here. Above that, a 95-96 Buffon Calciatore and a 7 going for 115. We have a Campione dello Sport Velita Pele here for 117 as well, in a pretty decent grade. I did take a stab at these, which is just ironic because I recently put them in a video of cards I'd buy if I was starting a $1,000 collection. This was one of them. The 1958 Pele WS Verlag Foosball. This is the number 94, one where you sort of, post-game crying. Of course, the Bremer Coffee Crying Pele is pretty sought after. This is sort of a lesser version, but still a cool card. I actually don't have one in my collection. I prefer a higher grade, but if these would have went cheap enough, I would have snagged one. This one goes for 120. This one goes for 126. I thought the 126 looked a lot better, so, good value there, at least relatively. And, I thought they were fair prices. I don't think they were cheap, but I don't think they were overpriced by any means either. Next to it, Winter Camo Jude Bellingham goes in a PSA 10 for 126. Was hoping to see a number on that, but I guess not. Must be a short print card of some sort. The Gazzetta Pele, so this is sort of the team image, and I believe on the outside of this team image are all the little single player shots that you'll see, or even dual or triple panels, depending on how you cut it. But it's an album cover that was sort of manipulated into card format, and so that's what you got going on here, and hence why it goes so cheap. Above it, R9 from 1996 Astralis. This is PSA 5 for 132. I'm not too in touch with the prices on these, but that felt decent for a card that clearly not high grade. It is a nice looking card. It's always been one that I enjoy, but 132 is pretty decent for a not high grade at all copy of it. Next to it, Lamine Yamal, PSA 10 of his base Chrome. We have a Dino Zoff 63-64 Calciatore. I looked this up just because I was interested, and basically only thing I could find were Velita back copies and autograph copies. So we don't really have one of a, just plain as day Calciatore. But based off the Velita pricings back in the day, I mean, there was one that had sold for 150. Granted, that was the lowest of the bunch, but all to say, this seemed like a decent sale. Nothing crazy one way or the other. Above it, Pep Guardiola 2024. We'll see another Pep here in a bit. That goes for 138 with some patches there. Lewandowski rookie along with a Lamine Yamal rookie. Those both going for about 150. Gianni Rivera's been quite the talk of these auctions lately. I mean, just performing really well. And this is a 63-64 Imperia Calcio. Nice looking set here. It comes in at a PSA 7, which is, of course, going to be a strong grade there. That goes for 150. A 66 Pele and a 1 next to it. Sort of like the look of this. Clearly not well-centered, but what are you going to do? PSA 1 goes for 150 there, along with a PSA 9 of the number 423 Mega Cracks Lamine Yamal. I think the 10s go for 750-ish, so quite a premium over the 9s, nearly a 5x, or basically exactly there. Iker Casillas Red Prism, PSA 9. PSA 9s in this set are pretty hard, so I do think that people put a decent premium on that because they're not easy to grade. The bags have a lot of edge wear on the top and some of the sides. The top has a lot of color. All to say 150 here. You can kind of rationalize. I mean, it seems like a decent sale to me. Casillas, obviously, a legend within realms, but ultimately I don't think he's some all-time great keeper of the era. I'm not trying to take away, but I just think that it's a decent price. Granted, it is color match. It is pretty high grade, so I sort of see both sides of it there. Another Topps Now Black Label. Yeah, that's just, I don't know. What's the moment here? What are we looking at? Second half hat trick in a great comeback win. Okay. It seems decent to be 156 for a Topps Now card. Black Label doing its magic. This PSA 9 2009 Essay sticker Ronaldo goes for 156. That's quite a price. It's not like, I guess it's not crazy, but these at one point in time had a narrative around it when there was people excited about pre-modern back in the day, and that narrative sort of died off, but seemingly here at least some price willing to be paid on it. This is his first Este sticker with Real Madrid. Sort of a cool sticker from my point of view. I think it has some merit to it, and I'd definitely take it over a Vinny Topps Now card all day, every day if I had pick between those two. Although, Casillas in this row, would you rather have the Casillas? I'm sure a lot of people would, and I couldn't really blame you. Above it, keeping the theme here, a Xabi Alonso 2014 Red Prism. This one, of course, a 9.5, so technically a little higher of a grade. Granted, it's not Min Gem 9.5. It's got a 9 on corners, so maybe you could say it's a PSA 9. It goes for 156 as well, so nearly the same as the Casillas. Next to a Hero Variation 2022 Chrome Messi goes for 162, along with a Zizinho PSA 2 for 162 out of the 1955 Vecchi set. Zizinho doesn't have a lot of issues, and surely this is one of the, more gettable ones, with the 55 Vecchi being somewhat plentiful, at least in the realm of vintage, where things are very hard to find, especially in, 50s Brazil. But, some issues did make their way to market much more than others, and this is one of them. PSA 2 for 162. I'm pretty sure if you look back on comps here, you can find sales, higher and sales much lower. It's sort of something that, sells dramatically different depending on the day, and so... ultimately, I think it's a good sale. You can kind of get an idea of what people feel is worth getting graded here based on the pop numbers. This is a pop 1 of 6, just one higher, which implies maybe there's 15 Zizinhos graded in total. I think Garincha is closer to 75, 85-ish, so clearly people are holding back on Zizinho. We have a Messi Mega Cracks PSA 9 from 2009-2010. I think this is a pretty good looking year as well. Also, first year Ronaldo comes over, but again, how much do people care? 168 for the Messi, which was about, I think it was close to PSA 8 pricing, which, depending on how you see SGC, could make sense to you. 2017 sticker Kylian Mbappe here from Topps UCL. This goes in a PSA 8 for 168, along with an iridescent Jude Bellingham. I feel like we saw one of these recently, maybe not Jude, it was probably a different player, but at least to me, visually, it's sort of a standout from Obsidian. Granted, people don't really have the best thoughts on Obsidian. It's not a fan favorite generally. I think the floods hit with some people, but beyond that, I don't really think there's a whole lot of fanfare behind the set. Next year, we have a purple Messi Finest, first year Finest, if you care about that. Purple out of 250. This goes for 174. Next to it, a blue name Eusebio with no Velita back, just plain as day. And in terms of pricing, I think I looked this one up. I did, and it's not really good. Most of the prior prices were anywhere from $200 to $300. This one's a little bit lower. Granted, when you see what happens with some of the other grades, some of the other variants of this, I think it's a fair price. But at the same time, when you look back at comps, it hasn't really done a whole lot as of late. Even back in 2020, this was doing $360, so it's come down quite a ways. Still one of my favorite stickers in vintage, I would say, but especially 50s to 70s range, it's a standout in my mind. But this is the easiest version in one of the lowest grades possible, so I sort of get it. Next to it, Beckenbauer Auto from 1966-67 Bergman. These are pretty easy to grade generally, so a 4 on the card's pretty bad. A 7 on the auto also isn't great. If you sort of zoom in, it looks washed out to some degree, so I think that's why it's got a 7. Ultimately, I thought it was a decent price for a guy that signed quite a bit in his day. 2017 Topps Chrome Ronaldo base going for 186. Not bad, not bad. You could also get an Alifa team image with Pele in it as well for nearly the same price. I'd probably go Alifa personally, but of course I tend to lean vintage at this point, so I got my biases. Next to it, this Pep Guardiola Futera out of 9. This had gone for 210. The only other sale I could find was maybe like $100 raw, $90, something like that. So, you know, if you give the 10 a little bit of a premium, I think this price makes sense. Modric 2018 Topps Chrome Gold goes for $222 in an SGC 10. Pretty solid grade there. And you can see the love from 2017 sort of trickling into other years and other parallels in particular. This 2023 Topps Knockout Lamine Yamal auto, $222, which already seemed low, but then you look at the watchers, 5 watchers. I mean, I think that just tells you how thin this market is for this low-level sort of stuff. Sure, it has an auto on it, but, I mean, Lamine Yamal is signing en masse, and so ultimately, you know, I think if you want a Lamine Yamal auto, you're going to be able to get one, and this is certainly proof, even on a rookie card. Granted, not the most desirable, but nonetheless, $222 there. Alternatively, Gold Prism 2014 at a PSA 8. I thought that wasn't a crazy price, personally. I know it's still $228 for someone I've never heard of. I don't know how deep into the weeds you are on the footballing scene here, but $228, I don't know. When you look at other years of Gold Prisms, like 2018, 2022, it seems like $50 to $100 is cheap, and typically, you know, some of these guys, especially in like 9s and 10s, will go for like $100 to $200, even if they're no names. So a 2014 Prism, just in general, for $220, I feel like is a decent price. Granted, you know, was I bidding on this? No, but I'm not the person putting together a Gold Prism set, and I don't know, to be fair, how many people are, but clearly it's a, you know, very beloved set and a rare parallel, and if you're looking to put it together, gonna be hard to find them. 2022 Gold Neymar auto here for $228. We have a 1960s Garrincha item here, at least primary focus is Garrincha, of course. This is a Petrota sort of dollar, and from my understanding, there's like 10 different dollar denominations, and so there's a little variance in between. You could put together the run if you want. PSA 5 seems like a pretty high grade, I'd have to imagine, on something like this, and pop one of 1 down higher would at least lean you that way. 1979 Crack Super Football, Diego Maradona, sort of him here, listening to some vinyl, I guess. We have a $234 mark on that one, which I think this set's done very well, personally. It's always been one that I just never touched with Maradona, even though I'm a big Maradona guy, just because there's so many of him in this set, and it's got him doing like it's like daily chores of Maradona, you know. He's taking out the trash, he's walking the dog, it's just, there's so much stuff in here. And most of it grades pretty low. This is a 4, but it's miscut, so really it's closer to like a 2. And so, you know, $234 for a 2 of sort of a random early Maradona, I mean, seems decent to me. Above it, Optic Ice, Lionel Messi from 2024 Optic. This goes for $234 in a PSA 10. We have a 94 PSA 8 Maradona going for $234. Of course, his final World Cup there, and some of his more available stickers. So I guess that's, you know, generally why you see a lower price here than you would on an 82 or an 86. Of course, those were the first tournament and the biggest tournament for him, so makes sense there. Nordal here from 1949 Albo Premio. This goes for $240 in a PSA 5. Sounds pretty strong on the grade. Of course, you wouldn't imagine tons of these are graded, so we might not have a full scope, but nonetheless, still a pretty coveted player, especially one of the bigger names that I can think of into the 40s. That isn't, I guess, an all-time great, but still very prominent. Green Christian Pulisic from 2024. I thought this was a decent number. You know, you never really quite know how much people are going to care on a set like Donruss, you know, paper card in the modern day. Doesn't really have a ton of great parallels in it, but green's sort of been one that's been, at least in the years I can recall, at least somewhat prevalent. And $240 there on a PSA 9, I thought was pretty good, but you know, I don't know. I was going to talk it down and say I'm a U.S. guy, but that's probably why I should see it as a low price. But it seemed decent to be. Nonetheless, 2020 here, PSA 10, we've seen a lot of these go. This one goes for $250 from this Este set. Really nice looking Messi. I mean, I will say it's probably one of my favorite looking stickers from Messi. Granted, it's a modern sticker, but still $252 on that's a decent price. I think those were closer to $300 to $400 for a while. Might have dipped back down a bit here. And then finally, Topps Blue Lionel Messi out of 49 from 2024 goes for $252 with a pretty iconic celebration there. And on to page 1. On page 1, we start with the 1970 blue and red back here of Gerd Muller. Pretty bad cut on this. Obviously, PSA 3 going to be a pretty low overall quality. Still decent eye appeal, I would say, at least looking from afar beyond the cut itself. But pop 1 of 1, 4 higher, so This one goes for $264. The only other one I could find in comps was $312 for PSA 5. I will say that this was my purchase of the 5 back in the day. I felt pretty good about it then. Surprisingly, not a lot of these selling, which is a little odd, but there are clearly more in the pop, as you can tell by that population, and there's going to be some lower as well, so maybe we'll see those eventually. Franco Baresi PSA 7 here for $264 from his rookie year. This one bottomed at about 126-ish, and that might have also been my purchase. I'm not quite sure. Either that or the 180. I remember getting it back then, and 260 now is a decent price, but as you can tell from just the general sales, I mean, it's not getting back to the all-time highs from back in the day, but it's clearly still up a decent bit from some of the lower sales that we can pinpoint. Purple Iniesta from 2014 and a PSA 9, pop one of 8 none higher for $264. Personally, I kind of like it. I'd take it over the Casillas or the Xabi and throw in an extra 100 on top of it. That's fine with me. Granted, purple's not people's favorite. Personally, it's one of my favorite colors, so I have a little bit of a soft spot for it. But I understand that the mass soccer collectors aren't big purple guys. So it depends how you see it. Most people would probably rather have a out of 149 red, and I'd probably include myself in that bunch. Above it, some sticker autos here. Eric Cantona from 2019 Panini Prism, along with a 2023 Panini Prism of Heung-min Son. We have another first-year finest green Lionel Messi here for $276. This one, pop 107, 3 higher. Row above it, another Messi from 2024. This is numbered out of 10, which is why it gets this high. But at least to me, feels like a great example of the bastardization of serial numbered stuff and just numbered stuff in general. Sort of seems like an odd card, but ultimately it's numbered out of 10. It gets $300. It is what it is. 1965 Bergman Fußball Beckenbauer, a PSA 5 with a miscut, pretty clear top to bottom, centering there seems a bit off, and the miscut nature brings us down to a PSA 3 in the registry. If you're looking for like high grades in the registry, if you put in a PSA 5 miscut, it counts it as a 3, which is why I always sort of take down 2 grades on this stuff. Personally, I just wish PSA, I guess it's nice to know what's wrong with it a little bit, so people always slam them for not telling you, but I'd almost rather have no qualifiers and just have things graded as they are. But at the same time, when you have like marks or something of that nature, I feel it's important to know. So hard to really find out where to stand there, but I don't like the 5 miscut. It just sort of, I think it leads people astray sometimes. Nonetheless, the 62 Campeonato di Calcio of Gianni Rivera here in a 1-5 grade. Pop 1 of 1, 2 higher. Again, gets a decent number here. He's been getting lots of decent numbers lately on a lot of his early releases out of Italy. Above that, a 82 Diego Maradona, a 5-5, going for $300. We saw the PSA 8 from 1994 do a little bit cheaper. Of course, getting a premium here on the early set for Maradona. 2013 Limited Icons Collection. Third gold, 2007. It must have been pinpointing what this photo's from. From my understanding, the patch is event worn. It's a nice looking card. It's interesting. 312 doesn't seem like a big number personally. Not that I really know the comps on this stuff too well, but I think that that's a good warning for, maybe eventual people that are getting into patches of newer players. I mean, this is sort of a set dedicated to Messi, and the first one to really have this type of stuff for Messi. Maybe there was some Futera before, but people really look at this as if it's the thing, and this only gets $300 in a PSA 9, which to me isn't groundbreaking. Beyond that, another good price here out of the 1955 Vecchi set. This DD gets $312. I think this is important to keep in mind for here in a moment. We'll see a Garrincha that does nearly the same price. Now, you could probably say this one has better eye appeal, and I would, understand that. But still, for DD, I thought this was a really good price on a 2.5, which again, him along with Zizinho don't have the same numbers graded as Garrincha. And so I think that that's sort of helping some of these prices sustain where they are. Above it, 62 Pele here in a PSA 2. Had to look up over the camera for that one. But yeah, 324 on that one, which I'm not exactly sure. I feel like I see this a decent bit, but there's so many similar stickers to this that I can't quite recall exactly, but that seems relatively in the ballpark of what we see those go for. 2020 Neymar Crown Royale Silhouettes out of 389. Kind of a big number on a patch like that, but out of 389 goes for 336, which... looks like a sticker auto just by the layout, but at the same time, part of me would hope maybe it's not, and there's the sticker. So yeah, it's sticker, which at that point, it seems like a decent price for a stickered number that high, but it is a nice looking card. PSA 7 Mbappe here. This one was crazy. We might have seen a 9 or 2 sell for beneath this in the last year or so. To see a 7 all the way up at this price is quite a roar in that small segment of the hobby. Above it, another Messi number, tops now red. PSA 10 goes for $372. We have a Pele example of this Petrota that we saw a Garrincha of earlier. The Garrincha was a 5. This is a 2, which is probably closer to normal. And this one does $420. Again, another example here of the denominations. This is a 10. I think the Garrincha was a 7, or I think that sounds right to me, so we'll go with it. 72 Pele here, PSA 5. Don't think I've ever seen this before. It is in a newer slab, which is always something, well, a newer cert, which is always something I look at on stuff that I haven't seen before, because maybe it's just something that's been around, but PSA wasn't grading it for one reason or another. I don't know enough about the issue, but just general feel, an oversized item from late in Pele's career in a mid-grade. I mean, maybe PSA 5 is really good on this. I'm not quite sure, but to me, it just seems kind of high, personally. I'd take the $60 bill before that, but again, not too well versed on that particular 70s issue. 2004 Messi PSA 4 goes for $504, which is again showing that I say it every week, but the Messi floor for rookies is really, really strong. We have a Monday Chromo as well in this row, and a PSA 4 for nearly $600. You could have gotten an 8 if you got lucky at this price a couple of years ago, and now there are 4s going for that price. Vecchi Garrincha in a 2. This is something that hasn't moved basically at all. And, there was some discussion in the Vintage Discord, as always, linked down below. Vintage Discord, great place to chat cards, fun time. Some people were saying that they didn't really understand how this could get a 2, that it looks really bad. And I mean, the back doesn't look great. The front definitely has its flaws. Should it be a 1.5? Probably. But I actually think the colors on it look pretty good. I think the visual's nice. I don't think a 2's crazy for it. Maybe it's overgraded. I wouldn't really argue that this should be a 3 or a 4. So, I get that perspective. But a 552 was particularly light on this issue, or at least a little bit, as you can tell, PSA 2 here. Which, again, on a technical grade, this probably looks better. But I like the colors on this a lot more. And that could come down to scan sometimes. You're never quite sure. But... all these are miscut to some degree. Some have some surface issues, but this is a good-looking copy by people's estimation. That went for $1,200. So basically, the sales here are just kind of hit or miss. Like, if it's a nice-looking copy, people have paid $1,000, it looks like, and if it's a bad-looking copy, people are closer to $500 on it, and that's sort of where it's been for the last year or two. Before the last year or two, it was actually pretty big time. 2021, 2022, this was anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, sometimes even higher, and... ultimately, you saw a lot more of these come out of Brazil, hence why a lot of sales started happening and the prices started falling. Personally, I did, I'll be transparent. I think I own 2 of these now. I bought another one last week in a 1.5 off ComC with some money that I had been selling other cards for. And I think it's a classic card of one of, probably not the best Brazilian of all time, but it's certainly top 3. You could very well make a case for top 2, I think, depending on how you weight the eras and all that. I just think Garrincha is such a big-time player, and this isn't truly a rookie because he does have 54 and 53 issues, but all of those, I think, are single-digit pops, and you never see the 53s come up. So, this is sort of the rookie that a lot of people would go after, if you want to call it that, or at least the earliest, big-time card for him. And to be able to get that for $500, I just feel like it's cheap. Again, I bought one recently, but that sort of shows that I think that. I didn't buy it so I could pump this narrative now. I just believe it. And I think that was a good buy at $550. If you like the eye appeal on it, I think that's a good price personally. And of course, I don't even say it a lot because I don't feel the need, but no investment advice. I'm just a dude talking about soccer cards from 100 years ago sometimes. So, I mean, it's one man's opinion. You're your own man or woman, and you can... think how you please. I would highly recommend it. But nonetheless, Gazzetta 1958 Pele for $588. Again, sort of a comparison. It's hard to compare Pele and Garrincha, but to me, this is almost a nothing card for Pele in terms of his rookies. It's one of the least desirable rookies for me. I'd rather have so many issues before this. And, it sells for more than the Garrincha. And the Garrincha is a must, I feel, for people that are into Garrincha and especially early stuff for him. So, Yeah, I don't know. Still, I mean, an okay price, I guess, but certainly comparing to the booms, these are down quite a ways. Color Blast 2020 Erling Haaland for $660, along with the 1930 Dita Miazza. Well, it says 1930, it's 1930s. I'm not super into the weeds with Miazza yet. I'm trying to get there, but from what I can recall, I don't think I've ever seen this issue before. Granted, CGC is a little bit more open to grading newer issues, so maybe this is something that's recently sort of started to get graded, but 720 there is sort of in line with what you see with Miazza. Some of the big time stuff will move into the multiple thousands, sometimes tens of thousands. Most of the other stuff is anywhere between, 200, $500, and that's somewhat in that range. Another Pele here for $750 on a PSA 3 if you want the extra grade there. We have an Edgar Davids Ruby, which I was interested because, again, in the Vintage Discord, there was some discussion on the first Edgar Davids rookie that sold like a year and a half ago. And people were like, this is too high. What's going on here? This seems like malarkey. And I guess somehow I've closed it. I don't know if that's true or not. I guess we'll go back. It is true. Okay. Well, I'll type it in because I'm dedicated at this point. And we'll see what it says. There's only one other sale. I could tell you it now. And it's the first year Ruby and the same exact grade for $500. So people thought that was crazy then, or at least a subsect of people did, and they didn't really understand it, and they were saying this is sort of a pump and dump, these are too expensive, who's buying this? And then now the second year goes for 60% more. So I think that goes to show that this isn't, at least in this year and a half time frame, I don't think that this is some sort of pump and dump on a set where some influencer got in on it and claimed it was the next big thing. I just think that it's a really cool set from the 90s that has really cool serial numbered cards that really didn't exist. Like other cards in the 90s that are serial numbered, it's like, 500, 3,000, 7,000. I mean, they're just kind of like, it's not really all that attractive. These are closer to what you would see in like 90s basketball, where there's just one set or two sets that existed for this particular run. There's an out of 100, and I think the second year also has one of ones in it. And that's really cool. It's really cool. The 90s isn't really my era. It's not what I focus on. I grew up then. I was, when this card came out, I was 3. So yeah, I don't have an affinity for this. If I did, personally, I think they're really cool cards, and I'd probably be really into them because I just think that they're very unique, and for that era, I think they're some of the best cards you can find, and I think that's why the prices are what they are. And, this does seem pretty strong, at least compared to some of the other players you see sell for about this price, but at the same time, very big player for the era, and again, if you were around, I'm sure it means all the more to you. Anywho, that's my session of shilling for Merlin as someone that owns no Merlin. Like, I don't even own base cards from this. I don't own anything. I just like it. I appreciate it, and wanted to throw some compliments out there. 2023 Lamine Yamal Mega Cracks PSA 10. We did see the 9 sell for $150. The 10's $850. All right, the 10's $850. It's 6 times the price. That's what we're putting it at. The 2004 PSA 6 Messi again, low end holding up good. This goes for $930. Would you rather have a Messi rookie or take your choice, a PSA 9 Bis Lamine Yamal or a PSA 10 Este? I take the 6 and Messi all day. Again, I don't think it's hard, but interesting to see what the Este does, because I don't feel like I've ever really seen these before in these auction blocks, and gets the same price as a PSA 9 Mega Cracks, which is probably about the same ratio as Messi. I think a Messi PSA 9 Mega Cracks is like 100K, plus or minus, and I would guess the PSA 10 Este is about there. I don't know if we've seen one sell in a while, but that's sort of what it is in my head. It could definitely be more, but just generally, they're relatively similar. And the Mega Cracks Lamine Yamal is like 10 times the price in the 10, which is also, again, the same for the Messi, which is, just cool to note. Nonetheless, Lamine Yamal 2024 Obsidian Patch Auto goes for $1,020. Still recovering from the sickness just a little bit. We're on the back end, though. The next short, again, a choice of Messi's here. 2020 Topps Chrome Gold Bubbles in a 10 or a Mundy Chromo in a 6.5. Personally, I don't have a strong opinion there. I mean, I guess the Mundy Chromo is inherently cooler to me just based on how I sort of collect, but at the same time, a 6.5 with that sort of centering is pretty poor for the Mundy Chromo. I wouldn't feel all too... Although I guess it's an $1,100 card, and if you got it, I'm not trying to talk you down. I mean, I think it's a cool card. The centering, in a world where everyone cares about centering so much, I just feel like takes it down a notch. But again, I'm not the biggest stickler on centering, so to each their own. Gold bubbles is just an interesting thing because, who cares? Who cares? But it's probably short print, and it's gold, and it's Messi, and it's Barca, and it's playing days Barca. So got some things there for sure. A Sapphire BGS 10. I guess the BGS 10s are pretty good, huh? With a gold NBA sticker as well to, get you going even more, I guess. 1,080 there. I feel like we saw the 10s back in the day the PSA 10s at about like 800 consistently every single week, and then they dropped to like 400 or 500. I'm guessing they've gone back up since. I'd have to imagine 750. Maybe they're back close to the 800 range, but at least in my head, it looks like there's a premium here on a BGS 10, which is interesting to note. Also interesting is, and maybe it's less so lately, but I've seen like numbered Haalands from his rookie year doing higher prices than this. And personally, give me a numbered item all day over a, high grade Sapphire base card. I mean, my lord. Anyhow, Messi 2004 PSA 7 for 1,080. A 94-95 Zidane foot in a PSA 8. Nice little color match with the sticker there. This one goes for, a little over double the last price on a best offer on eBay. So there you go. You can see a little bit of growth there for sure. Looking very nice. And PSA 8 of the 93-94 went for 240 2 years ago. So you're seeing definitely a big move there. And, the foots out of France, they aren't too easy to find, especially high grade on a player like Zidane, people trying to put together a run of his career stuff. I can see why it sort of bubbled into what it has as of late. At the same time, it feels pretty strong, as someone that, again, I'm not big on the 90s, but if I was, I do feel like 1,100 for a 94-95 issue would feel pretty strong. But again, at the same time, if you're putting them together, like it's not like modern day where you have so many issues from every year to choose from. You basically have foots and then some cards scattered throughout. So like, you do what you got to do, right? So I get it. 70 watches is also crazy. That's super impressive. Granted, Erling Haaland Sapphire has nearly that, but for pre-modern, all right, that's different. 70 there is pretty good. Beyond that, 2025 gold glitter for all the people that love their Prism Golds. How much do you like Prism Gold glitter? Someone thought 1140 sounded fair, and for a knockoff parallel from a knockoff tournament in pajamas, feels pretty good. Two Messis next to it for the same price. Take your pick. Again, I could see why someone would want to take the gold glitter, but I'll take one of the Messi rookies. Granted, look at those watchers, man. 13 and 15. That's so low. And maybe those were flashed in. I guess that's like the one thing you could say, because some items get flashed later in the week, and on a liquid item like a Messi rookie, you can kind of get away with that. So maybe that's sort of contributing there. Man, that one has 18. This one has 43. So yeah, it's like, this one has 40. Yeah, okay. They're probably flashed. I don't know why some would get 40, some would get 13, but nonetheless, the Este Messi actually gets a lot of watchers here, and a decent price at $1,300 for a PSA 4. Pretty good eye appeal on the 4, at least from here. I'm not going to zoom in because, we'll just take PSA's word for it. Why not? In terms of past sales, it's doing pretty good this year. It sold for $1,200, $1,000 on a fixed price, and then last year and a couple of years ago, we got closer to $500 and even a little lower at times. Personally, I still think, I guess from the bottom, 500, it's still up a good bit. I think it's a really good sticker. I like the sticker a lot. I think that it's the second best Messi rookie. And if you're a certain type of collector, you could say it's the best because, for his card selection, he has a lot of cards to choose from. From his sticker selection, there is one, and this is it. And so it depends on how you want to go about that. I think, granted, there's a $700 difference here, but this sort of shows it in this row. You have an Este and a PSA 4 next to an 8.5 of one of the cards, and one of the more desirable cards. I think this is probably third in most people's list, with the Mega Cracks higher, and then maybe a Monday Chromo, or maybe one of the other team issue releases. I don't know, but I thought 1,300 on PSA 4 was very respectable and sort of shows the strength behind the Este at the moment. There's also a Lamine Yamal rookie out of 5 in between, if you didn't notice. So 2K there. Yeah, I mean, it's Lamine Yamal. You got to pay up for Lamine Yamal. David Beckham 1 of 1 from 2024 Select goes for $3,200 and a PSA 7. Sticker auto, post-playing career. Who cares? PSA 7, who cares? It's a 1 of 1 black, baby. $3,200. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, just cool to see, I guess. To some degree, it is nice to see people want to pay big prices and that type of stuff. But another part of me is a little concerned. But I'm at war with that. 101 watchers on this 2002-2003 Mega Cracks Ronaldo. Why PSA or PWCC/Fanatics chooses to put 2003 in the listing title, I don't know. It probably would help your auction block a little bit if you labeled it as a 2002 item and truly rookie year Ronaldo, but who knows. Anyhow, PSA 4 for 3,800, which I think I looked at comps. I think I did it. Let's find out. I did. Okay, cool. Last year, about a $1,500, $1,700 card. And now looking at nearly 4K. So it's up a little bit. Back during the crazy booming days, we barely even got over this price point. 4,200 there seems to be the high. And it is. So this is the second highest price all time, which seems pretty good. Seems pretty good to me. I've always been a Ronaldo truther from his rookie card sense. You can think Messi's a better player, and personally, I probably do a little bit. But at the same time, Messi has so many more options for his rookie cards, and there's just so much more out there. And for Ronaldo, being he's not a similar talent to Messi in terms of actual, what they offer, but in terms of career and totality, he's fairly similar to Messi, and I would say he even has like a bigger persona than Messi. Messi's a relatively kept to himself guy. Ronaldo loves the spotlight and sort of uses it to his advantage, and so I think that long term, I think Messi will be certainly a better footballer. The true fans of the game will always go Messi, I think. But I do think that a lot of fans can make a case for Ronaldo, and I think that, his sort of image and his just stardom is different. I think it's different, and I think that helps Ronaldo long term. And so ultimately, I just think that these two players are very close, and, great example of that on the left here. Someone paid $4,500 for a dual auto of the two. And I mentioned it last week. I don't know how Beckett does their witnessing of autographs. I don't know what it comes down to. If someone just posted this on eBay raw with no authenticity on it and just sort of, $5 start price on an auction, I'd run away from it. I'd be terrified. I don't like the look of the Messi auto on this at all. I'm not saying it's fake. I trust BGS and their well, do I? I don't know. I mean, I'll transfer the trust over to BGS and say how much you trust them matters way more than how much you trust me. This looks fine, but I've seen Messi fake autographs on eBay that look kind of like this, where they're just like smaller and more bunched together, and the nature of this card sort of means that you have to do that. And again, I trust Becca for whatever it is, but 4,500. I mean, my lord, on a random sticker now. It has some sort of relevance, but man, I could just get a Ronaldo rookie and save $700. I do that all day, every day, every single day, all day. I mean, golly, that's just crazy. Anyways, top three this week, all Ronaldo. And we live in a world of Messis, and now you get all Ronaldo for the top three. Huh? What a world. Even top five? Okay, actually, Messi snuck his way in here. Okay, never mind. This PSA 8 El Mundo Deportivo goes for $4,500. Interestingly enough, because we saw one go last week for $6,600, but the noticeable difference between the two is this one has really thin borders. This is a hand-cut release out of a sheet, and so you can cut them however short or thick you want. And the one last week had pretty thick borders relatively, and it also had a spot on the border where it seemed like if you cut it again, you could probably get a 9 and upgrade the grade. So I'm guessing a little bit of that might have taken into account on the 6,600 last week and could explain why we're at 4,500 now. Still up a good bit. This was a card that was selling at one point in time for 1,500 to 2K. There's another point in time where it was like a 10K plus card, but yeah, I mean, that was a long time ago. Just recently, it was 1,500 2K. So this is still moving in the right direction. Granted, down from last sale, but I think some of the fundamentals behind the sticker/card in particular, I think, can explain that away. BGS 7, Cristiano Ronaldo rookie, goes for 6,600. And, just interesting to see PSA 4 goes for 3,800, a 7 goes for 66. Feels like a decent bit of premium there. I mean, most people, if you put a PSA 4 and a BGS 7 on the table nowadays, I don't even know what people would choose. I mean, some people might walk away with the 4, and so to see nearly double the price on a BGS 7 felt relatively respectable, at least from my point of view, with where BGS stands at this moment in time. So, back in the day, would have thought that this was a low price. Nowadays, I feel like this is pretty solid compared to that PSA 4. And then finally, topping the auction block, I can almost say for certain this card's never topped an auction block for us, and this is the 2003 Upper Deck Manchester United Cristiano Ronaldo rookie. Again, I think it'd be really helpful in this situation if you labeled one of these cards as 2002 like it actually is. I just think that would help. I think that whatever baseball, football, basketball collector that comes on over into the soccer section and looks around, they might think something means a little more if it's 2002 instead of 2003. I don't know what it is with them classing this card as 2003. If I was an owner of it, I'd be super frustrated. I don't own one, so I kind of like it, but at the same, I just don't get it. It's like, come on, what are we doing? Anyways, the Upper Deck card from a year later, a season later, in a PSA 10 gets the same price. And, granted, this is a much more mass-produced card, more available, especially in high grade, and so that's probably a decent factor as to why it's low, at least depending on how you want to see it. But in terms of past pricing, the last sale on Heritage did $4,700, and Heritage not the best at getting good prices on soccer, but they try. Before that, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $4,000, $3,000. If we go back to some of the lower prices in 2024, you can find prices anywhere from like $1.5 to $2K. It seemed like the general low was, maybe 2.5 to 3 for the most part. And definitely up quite a bit here, 6.6K on what is a decently high pop issue, Pop 51. And there are also multiple variations of his card in this set. So it's not just this card, but sort of akin to the Messi 2004 in more than one way, if you think about it. But nonetheless, decent price there. Tops this weekly. Not as big of a week, but still a fun week. We still find a way to have some fun with it. And if you didn't think last week was a big week, well, I got a Kaboom for you. And I got a Messi Green Crystal. I got a 71 Biz. I say I have it as if, I have any relationship with Fanatics. I just review these. But, I'd like to selfishly take some ownership. Why not? 2024 Noir Messi. We have a red Sapphire Messi as well, along with an Mbappe color wheel. A nice R9 rookie auto here, already at 1300, along with an orange Sapphire, Holland, and a gold 2015 Messi. All right, seems like a little bit bigger of a week. We have a PSA 10 of the numbered 2004 SP Authentic Ronaldo, some bigger Lamine Yamals, a big Cristiano Ronaldo, a Kaboom. Okay, we're back. We're so back. All right, last week didn't have enough. They said we're bringing the heat, and that's what we got. So looking like a fun week as well next week, and hopefully you're excited as always. I know I am. If you enjoyed this video, of course, make sure to leave a like. Would love to hear any of your thoughts, high, low, maybe something you snagged in the comments as well. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.